بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على عبده ورسوله نبينا وإمامنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد، سائل يسأل فيقول: تزوج أحد الشباب بإحدى الفتيات وقد كان يعتقدها ملتزمة، ففوجئ بعكس ذلك واشترطت عليه أن يحضر تلفازا إلى البيت بعدما دخل بها، فبماذا تنصحونه وبماذا تنصحون الفتاة كذلك? Question says, there's a young man who married a young woman. Before they got married, the young man thought that the young woman was very religious, if that's even a correct term to use. Multazim. Quran and Sunnah give us words and terms. Multazim, multazimin, multazima, according to my limited knowledge, isn't one of those words or terms. Mustaqim, muttaqeen, so on and so forth. Alright? Bar, awab, mu'min, muhsin, naam. Okay, the Quranic terms and words for someone who's adhering to the religion. However, we know that in our modern times, these are the words that people use. Multazim or mutawwa. In many countries overseas. In Medina, the people are, like two types of people. You have the normal average person, and then you have mutawwa. Mutawwa is someone with a beard, a big beard. And the multazim, even if they're not necessarily mutawwa, is someone that, prays 5 times a day. It's someone who prays every now and then, or prays in Jum'ah. He's, Muslim, but he's not multazim. So a person's trying to get married, they ask the questions, they as well know he isn't multazim, meaning he has no type of religious practice. And that obviously, regardless of the terminology and the words, that perspective is extremely wrong and messed up. Because it's basically a license to say that if you know one special with a super big beard, you can just do whatever you want. Al-Iman fil qalbi, faith is in the heart, that's it. You can't judge me. And that's prevalent overseas. You see that, extremely prevalent. A man has 5 children, 3 boys, 2 girls. This one girl, she's the mutawwa, and this boy, he's the one, and the rest of them are, nothing. They don't pray, they're just normal people. They don't do bad things, they don't make crimes, they don't, but they're just, average Muslim. Al-Muhim, back to the question. A young man married a young woman. وَقَدْ كَانَ يَعْتَقِدُهَا مُلْتَزِمَةً. He thought that she was multazimah, religious, pious, righteous, striving to be a good Muslim. فَفُوجِئَ بِعَكْسِ ذَلِكَ. And all of a sudden, he was shocked and surprised to find that she wasn't really that pious. And she wasn't really that religious, she really wasn't that, practicing. وَاشْتَرَطَتْ عَلَيْهِ أَنْ يُحْضِرَ تِلْفَازًا إِلَى الْبَيْتِ بَعْدَمَا دَخَلَ بِهَا. And she said that before we move in and live with each other 100%, you have to bring a television to the home. I need a TV, entertainment, the remote control, sofa, entertainment center. That's a part of what you have to provide. Refrigerator, stove, microwave, toaster oven, right? You have to furnish the curtains, the drapes, and also television. And this was after they consummated the marriage. After they slept with each other. فَبِمَاذَا تَنْصَحُونَهُ. What advice do you give to the young man? وَبِمَاذَا تَنْصَحُونَ الْفَتَاةَ كَذَلِكَ. And what advice do you give to the young woman? Alright. Answer says, نَنْصَحُ بِأَنْ يَحْرِصَ عَلَى سَلَامَةِ دِينِهِ وأن يحذر من التنزل على رغبتها في هذا ومن التجاوب معها فيما طلبت، وذلك لأنه لا يؤمن مع إدخال هذه الأجهزة من التمادي في استعمالها والنظر إلى ما لا يحل له ونظرها إلى ما لا يحل لها من الصور الفاتنة ونحوها فيقع بذلك فساد كبير. He says the advice that we give to the young man is for him to prioritize his deen. Prioritize your religion. And the safety of your religion, the protection of your religion, the safeguarding of your religion. That comes first, before anyone else. And I also we advise him not to comply with her requests, what she wants from him. Don't agree to that. And that is because when people bring these devices into their homes, now pay attention, pause the translation, this fatwa in most cases is at least 20, 30 years old. هذا قبل 20 سنة 30 سنة or أكثر, even more than that. So this was his perspective, that you cannot feel safe by having these devices in the home. Then what do you think is the case with now? Pay attention. 20, 30 years ago, we're talking about a television with a remote control and a satellite dish. Imagine the devices that husband and wife, children have access to in the day in which we speak now. So he says the reason why he shouldn't listen to her, he shouldn't comply with her request, is because you can never feel absolutely safe of having these devices in your home. من التمادي في استعمالها. Listen carefully to the fatwa. Abusing their use and going overboard and becoming addicted. And the sheikh here, he never said that the television itself was haram. And he never ever said that just using the television or watch, but he says من التمادي في استعمالها. A person becoming a couch potato. I want you to just sit on the sofa and click, click, scroll, 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 scroll. Alright? He says you can never feel safe that a person would just use the TV and cut it off every now and then, but they'll just, become addicted to it and they'll continue to abuse it. He says, وَالنَّظْرِ إِلَى مَا لَا يَحِلُّ لَهُ. Nor can a person feel safe that a man won't look at things that he's not supposed to look at. Or the woman, the wife, looking at things that she's not supposed to look at. مِنَ السُّورِ الْفَتِنَةِ. From all types of images, videos, shows, programs which lack the necessary Islamic compliance. At least we can say that. We say that what? At least. And once again, it's 20, 30 years ago. So the sitcoms or the soap operas or the comedy or the news 20, 30 years ago in Arabia, imagine now what they're dressing like, let alone the homo agenda. And the list goes on and on and on. He says, وَنَحْبِهَا, and other things which are wrong and bad that people look at when they watch television. فَيَقَعْ بِذَلِكَ فَسَادٌ كَبِيرٌ. He says a great deal of harm will take place by him looking at haram things, her looking at haram things. And we need not explain this. How many marriages are messed up and broken up because of the internet, because of television. Now just pause for a second. Pause in the translation. Many of you are thinking that, okay, it's just haram stuff. But it's deeper than that, especially with the internet. You keep looking at people with these perfect marriages, these happy marriages. He's taking her here on a cruise. He took her here. They're in this exotic location. They're in this crazy restaurant. And they edit the clips. The food, the everything, the coffee, the juice. It's so crunchy and delicious. He took me here to seafood. And you're at home with your husband and your wife, angry, depressed, frustrated. He doesn't do this. He doesn't have this money. He's not romantic. She doesn't know how to cook. What's going to happen to that relationship? I'm looking at you in an exotic cruise in the Caribbean, and I'm stuck in New York City apartment. What's going to happen to that relationship? No doubt. There's going to be envy. There's going to be jealousy. There's going to be depression. And the woman is going to keep saying what the husband is supposed to be based off of what? What's Fulan is doing. Why can't you be like him? Why can't you take me on a cruise? Why can't you take me to this cafe? Why can't we do a food tasting video? Why can't you take me here? Why can't? Look at him. He's romantic and he's a sheikh. He has a big beard and he's out in public. They hugging and kiss. They take pictures together. But you say we can't have our pictures online. Or vice versa. Why can't you dress like this? She wears hijab and she still has some style. She still looks good. She's still there. She still gets a compliment. People ask her, "Are you married?" And we walk outside the house and all you do is just cover everything up. So you got to be mindful of what you look at and the harm that it can cause upon your marriage. And it's one of the major problems with social media today. It causes major depression. And it causes a great deal of ungratefulness. And everybody is looking up, 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 up. And only a few people are doing what the Prophet said, do and look down. Alhamdulillah, we're not that bad. Alhamdulillah, we're not that worse off. Alhamdulillah, we don't have those problems. Some people look at it like this, but we know the vast majority, they're looking at those dopamine-full videos, let alone the dislike stuff, let alone that which is what? Clearly haram, let alone that which is like, alongside acid to your brain, watching those haram films on the internet. It literally eats away your soul and your brain. And the problems that happens are caused by those videos in the bedroom, in which you can't have it, of course, with your wife, because you've been watching too much of the haram stuff. And everything in the haram stuff is bad. But you get the point I'm trying to make. Your body is fried. You can't do anything. You can't please your wife. And if you don't please your wife, what happens? Or if your wife can't please you, what happens? So he says, fasadun kabir, a great deal of corruption. Moving forward, back to the fatwa, it says, وَبِكُلِّ حَالٍ عَلَيْهِ أَنْ يَنصَحُهَا وَيَحُثَّهَا عَلَى الْإِلْتِزَامِ. At the end of the day, we give him advice to advise her. Give her sincere advice and tell her that she has to follow the rules. وَعَلَيْهَا طَوَاعِيَةُ زَوْجِهَا وَأَنْ تَلْتَزِمَ بِطَاعَةِ اللَّهِ قَدْرَ اسْتِطَاعَتِهَا. And she also has to obey her husband. She has to follow the rules herself. She has to obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to the best of her ability. Anything outside of her ability or capacity, she isn't required. But that which is within her capacity, she is required to do. The Mufti, he then says, وَإِذَا رَأَى مِنْهَا تَعَنُّتًا وَعِنَادًا لَهُ وَمُخَالَفَةً لَهُ ورأى أنها تعيبه بالتزمت والتشدد وبالغلو ونحو ذلك فالأولى له إذا لم تتأثر أن يفارقها. And if he sees that she refuses to obey, and she only wants to be obstinate, disobedient, disrespectful, she can't listen, she can't submit, and if he sees that she accuses him of being too harsh and of being extreme and of being boring and stale and outdated and crusty, we can't do this, we can't have tazammut, tashaddud, you're extreme, everything's halal, we can't do anything, so on and so forth, he says, then he should leave her. He should not stay with her. If she's not going to listen and obey, and she keeps looking down on him, pointing a finger, calling him an extremist, you're a bad person, you're boring, everything's haram, so on and so forth. فَالْأَوْلَى, he says he should leave her. And he quotes the ayah in the Quran al-Kareem, which Allah Azza wa Jalla says, وَإِن يَتَفَرَّقَا يُغْنِ اللَّهُ كُلَّ مِنْ سَعَتِهِ. Allah says, and if they split up, this man and this woman, Allah Azza wa Jalla will enrich both of them. Allah will bless both of them. Allah will give them both better. Allah will give them from His richness, the man and the woman, if they split up. So don't worry about it. Allah will give you a better wife. And if this husband is not good enough for you, etc., then Allah give you a better husband. This fatwa was given by Shaykh Abdullah Ibn Jibrin, rahimahullah ta'ala, may Allah bless upon his soul. And there are many things to pay attention to. Many of you are going to say, what do you mean a TV? Because 99% of us have TVs. So there are many things we can't even begin to conceptualize. And it's so normal to have this and to have that. Also, you look here how the Shaykh never ever demonized the television itself. He said, ajhiza, devices, dish, whatever the device may be. And he never demonized the instrument. But he spoke on the content of those instruments. So the phone that you have is harmless. The TV is harmless. The internet itself is harmless. You can use it for good, or you can use it for, you can literally ruin your life with one click, one swipe, without any exaggeration. Ruin your life. Waliyadu billah. So it's the content. Secondly, we look at the wisdom of a stitch in time saves a stitch in 9. So looking at not what it is now, but what it's going to become and what it can become. So right now it's halal, no problem, but there are no boundaries, there are no guidelines, there's no discipline, and the next thing you know, the television is the babysitter. The device is the babysitter of your child. Every now and then your son's crying, we're on a road trip. But this thing is the entertainer, the babysitter, And your children, they grow up and they learn life through the internet. And of course, everybody on the internet isn't so good and wholesome. There are many people on the internet who are broken. There are many people on the internet who are backwards. Let alone those who clearly openly call to kufr and shirk and disobedience and uncovering and wearing tattoos and so on and so on. The list goes on. Let alone being a homosexual or a lesbian. So you have to be very careful with what you allow into your house. You have to be very careful with how much screen time you give your children and how much you and your wife sit in front of a television, reading a book, taking a walk, so on and so on. When last time someone used a cookbook to cook something? Everything is a 30-second Instagram recipe. And they make it look so simple and easy. It's fast, it's quick. But when you go into the kitchen, what? It never ever turns out like that. And that's another major harm of the whole worship of the internet culture today, is that everything looks super duper easy. And if people are addicted to instant gratification, they're addicted to rush, full throttle ahead. Nobody can slow down and do things the proper way with their hands. When you don't have the internet, you don't have Wi-Fi, you don't have data, what happens? You want to see miserable children? Take the internet from them. You want to see people get bored out of their minds? Do what? Take the internet from them. And I remember my last year in Medina, before I left, I was in the hallway and I saw all of the different students. It was shocking and appalling. Everybody was on their phones. I'm not saying there's haram stuff they was looking at. They could be reading Quran. But everybody was like this on their phone. Everybody. And wallahi, I'm not that old, but it made me feel old because I remember in my day, everybody will be like this, reading a book. Test, exam, everybody will be looking on their papers. But now it's device. Right? So at the end of the day, we're not here to discuss is television haram or not. That's not the moral of the story. What we're trying to make a point is that if a man gets married to a woman and later on he discovers that it isn't what he signed up for, or vice versa, then the first step is to give advice. Don't separate immediately. Don't say, oh, get a divorce immediately. You lied to me, you tricked me, you're not the man that I married. Give advice, talk, get counseling, see what can be done. And if nothing is done, number one, or cannot be done, and secondly, he clearly mentioned is that there's scorn. There's scorn. Pay attention to scorn now. You're a bad this, you're an extreme this, you're this, you're... When a wife talks about her husband or talks to her husband like that, then in most cases is what? It's a hopeless situation. Versus her knowing, yeah, you're right, I'm tired, I'm lazy, or I'm used to watching it, or I'm used to doing this, I'm used to listening to it, I'm going to try, I'm going to stop. That's a different story. But when you say, hey, don't eat this, don't dress like that, oh, you're extreme, oh, you're harsh, oh, you're jealous. When she doesn't value the religious advice of her husband, cut your losses, walk away from it. And vice versa. If a woman is giving advice to her husband to do the right thing, to be a better Muslim, and he looks down upon her, and he makes fun of her, you think you know everything? Or you think you're perfect? Or you think you're better than me? Or you think because you went to a class with Brother Fulan, now you're on the sunnah and I'm not? In most cases, he's not going to change. Because he doesn't see any need to change, and rather the problem is with and not me. You're saying pray, you're saying do this, you have the problem. You're the religious extremist, so on and so forth. So that's golden advice, right? Working through the problems is one thing. Making fun of each other, looking down upon each other is what? Something totally different. And obviously one of the ways of getting around this is, because the question clearly says, يَعْتَقِدُهَا, he believed that she was righteous, is to make sure that she's righteous. No one is perfect, starting with myself. But there are ways in which you get to know a person, and you get to know the percentage and the ratio of a person. I traveled with Ahmed, we went here, we did this, blah, blah, blah. 75% of the time that I was with him was, every now and then he, I had to turn his head back around. Ahmed, hey,